Happy Tuesday. I hope that your week is off to a great start. I wanted to talk about a couple of different things today, and I hope it might be helpful to you. The weather here in North Carolina has been a little up and down. It's been like rainy one day and then sunny the next, and then warm and spring-like one day, and then cold and wintry the next day. And it has been really helpful to me to check the weather on my phone before I get my kids dressed in the morning, and before I get dressed, and before I walk out the door. And I remember yesterday I looked at my phone and I saw that it was going to be rainy in the afternoon. And so I packed my rain jacket. And right as I was leaving school, it started to rain. And I was like, thank goodness I packed my rain jacket. I'm going to start looking at the weather a lot more often. Now, I realize that most people in the civilized world have been checking the weather for several decades now. And I think that this is a practice that I need to start implementing more. But sometimes I just get so busy. But I thought about how great it felt to be prepared with my rain jacket when the rain started coming down. And it made me think about this idea of weather and checking the weather in our classrooms. And I'm not just talking about the temperature and the thermostat. I'm talking about just sort of being aware of what the weather is like for our students internally, what they might be going through, what they might be dealing with. And instead of jumping to conclusions and taking things personally, which is something that maybe I've been prone to do every now and then. I don't know about you. Don't like to admit that, right? But it happens. I can instead just get really curious about what's actually going on with my students and why they might not be all sunny and bright, and it might not be like a happy spring day for them. So this morning I had a student who was just kind of not really eager to get started on the warm-up, and not really eager to get out the book that I had personally recommended for her, thinking that it might be really up her alley. And I was just getting really frustrated, and she had turned in something late last week, and I was supposed to just give her half credit for it, but I ended up really grading it and giving her a few more points. And I was just thinking, gosh, I am giving her so much. I'm going the extra mile for her, and she is not reciprocating. What is going on with this little 15-year-old, And I looked at her grades. We can look at our students' grades in all their classes, and she's taking an AP class, and she's taking a really tough Spanish class. She's taking my class, which is Honors English, and I saw that she was struggling in a few of these classes. And I also know a little bit about her story because my students have shared some things with me in their writing and sometimes in class discussions. And so I kind of know her, not real well, but she doesn't open up a whole lot to me, which can also be frustrating because as teachers, we want our students to tell us everything that's on their mind all the time. And some of them just aren't like that. And I was just inclined this morning, instead of confronting her and being like, listen, you need to be on the ball. This is the end of the third quarter. You need to get it together, blah, blah. Instead of doing that, I took her out in the hall and I just got really inquisitive and curious. And I just asked her about what was going on with her grades, how she felt about her grades. And I still didn't get a whole lot more out of her. But I left that conversation feeling a lot better than I would have if I had come down on her, if I had told her, how disappointed I was in her work habits or whatever, or just, if I had come from an approach of criticizing. Instead of criticizing her, I just got more curious, and I was able to give her a little bit of a pep talk. And I don't know what her takeaway was from that pep talk. I hope it was good, but we talked about like goals and where she wants to be in 2 years. And what I did was I read her a letter of recommendation that I had just written for another student, but I put her name in. And I said, this is the kind of recommendation letter I want to write for you in 2 years. I want you to come back to me and ask me to write you a letter of recommendation if you want to. And this is what I want to be able to say about you. And I read it to her. And I said, do you think this describes you? And she goes, kinda. And I said, I think on your best day, this totally describes you. And she kind of brightened up a little bit. And I don't know what she was thinking. I think maybe she was happy after our conversation, but all I know is that when she came back into class, she was focused and she was, hey, if you want to say hey, you can. Sorry if you don't feel like it, it's fine. And she was a lot more on task than if I had taken her out in the hallway, come down hard on her, and read her the riot act and said, this is the expectation. I need you to turn it around. I need you to get in line, whatever. So just getting curious with students instead of criticizing them. Sometimes it can feel like the norm. When we are teaching, it can feel like it's us versus them, and we forget that they are just trying to go about their day like we are. They are just trying to get through being teenagers. They are just trying to keep up with all their schoolwork, all their family obligations, all of the things that are vying for their attention. Not to mention they have to deal with this whole social media world, which wasn't around when we were teenagers, or at least when I was, and I'm really thankful because I don't know how they deal with that. And I think it just makes all the difference when we go to the notion of curiosity over criticism, over contempt, over complaining. Just get curious about, wonder why they're acting like that. I wonder what's going on. Like, what is the weather like for them? Is it a sunny, pretty day, or is it rainy for them? Like, even though we might be really happy and everything's going well for us, our students have issues that we don't even have any inkling about many times. So I hope this was helpful. If nobody else tells you today, you rock. If you're on spring break, I hope you're enjoying it. If you're not, like me, if you're still holding out for the next week, we're gonna make it. It's gonna be fine. And I'll catch you next time.